Hello, listeners. I'm Tim Shadamas, and it's Monday, and I've got a sunburn
Ouch.
on my ear.
The oddest place is the only place that you forget never to put sunscreen.
I guess, but now it's like on my ear, and I can feel it, and it's ugh. And as always, joining me is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voice.
Good morning, Tim Stradamus, and welcome all listeners. The worst has happened. My alarm went off, and it's Monday.
Yeah.
Along with Tim Stradamus' sunburn.
Yeah, it was a good weekend, though.
It was. I had a lot of fun. Went kayaking.
Yep. Caught a fish, got a sunburn.
Got a sunburn. But I didn't.
Yes, you covered well.
I did.
Voice and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, my dear Leos, it's your turn.
My bold Leos, the stars are urging you to focus on self-acceptance and reflect on your relationships with others. This transformative month presents an opportunity for you to deepen your understanding of yourself and cultivate healthier connections with those around you. Your ruling planet, the sun, illuminates your path to self-discovery. Embrace both your strengths and imperfections, acknowledging that being human entails a beautiful blend of qualities. Release any harsh self-judgment, using past experiences as stepping stones for growth and learning. With emotions running high, take time for introspection and delve into the depths of your heart. Connect with your desires, fears, and aspirations. This inner exploration will empower you to form authentic and meaningful bonds with others. As you learn to love and accept yourself, you radiate a magnetic aura that draws people to your side. In the realm of relationships, reflect on the dynamics at play. Assess if your connections are nurturing and supportive or potentially draining and stressful. It's essential to surround yourself with those who uplift you and appreciate your genuine self. Remember, it's okay to set boundaries and distance yourself from toxic influences while prioritizing your well-being. In August, the stars align to help you find harmony between your personal and professional life. Embrace your leadership qualities and creative talents as they can propel you to new heights. Recognition for your hard work and dedication may come your way, presenting opportunities for advancement and growth. However, be mindful of any tendencies towards excessive pride or arrogance. Stay humble and grounded, appreciating that your true strength lies in inspiring and connecting with others. In summary, August is a pivotal month for self-acceptance and relationship reflection. As you grow and evolve, your positive energy will ripple through the lives of those around you, bringing a sense of fulfillment and purpose to your journey. So trust in the transformative power of self-love and authenticity.
Well, Leos, too much energy.
No, I like it. They're about to become their better selves this month.
Rawr. Well, now that we have our weekly reading done, let's jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning Kepe Brew. What did you make for me this morning?
I made for you a rooibos and hibiscus tea, but for the sweetness, I added in some apple cider that I made with some maple.
Oh, yeah, that's really good.
You like it?
Yeah, that's like
See, you always like the fruitier stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's really good. That's a 4 out of 5.
All right.
It tastes like fall in a cup.
For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for leaving my wife alone at Disneyland? So my wife and I are currently not really talking to each other because of what happened on the last day of our vacation. On our last day, we went to Disneyland in Japan. We had been in Japan for 2 weeks, and up until then, everything was pretty much okay. We had a lot of fun traveling around the country. We are from Europe, by the way. In the afternoon, as we were waiting in line, she asked me to tell a joke. So I told her one, and that joke apparently hurt her feelings. She was upset and went quiet. I told her I was sorry, but she didn't accept my apology. She told me how that hurt her feelings and that I shouldn't be telling jokes like that. I was pissed why she wouldn't just let it go and stop talking to her. The mood worsened, and she suggested that we separate for a moment so that everyone could calm down. After about 15 minutes, she sent me a text message asking me to meet up. When I met her, we got into a huge argument where she told me she was sad because there is always a bit of truth behind a joke and how my joke ruined her mood. I asked her why she always felt the need to push it, and that I told her I was sorry before. I told her that she was no fun to be with, got up, and left the park. She sent me a text asking me if I was leaving her alone at the park, to which I didn't reply. She then called me and was crying on the phone. I asked if she could finally pull herself together. She didn't reply. I asked again, but she only asked, crying, if I was seriously leaving her alone like that and to stop yelling at her. She drove me mad. She apologized for calling. I told her, nice try, but that's not working, and we hung up. I went back to the hotel, and when she came back about 3 hours later, she didn't talk to me. She took a shower and then told me she couldn't believe that I left her alone at the park in a foreign country with no cell phone. Her phone died after our call. That she didn't know how to get back to the hotel. The park was an hour away. And when she finally found the hotel, that she couldn't get in because I had both keys. So she had to ask other people to help her out, and that she felt abandoned by me. We had another argument. I told her my view, and she suggested we put the matter aside as we had a long way home the next day. We've been home for 2 days now, and we only talk to each other the bare minimum. She only told me that her trust in me was broken, and that family never leaves someone behind, especially not in a foreign country, that I didn't care about what happened to her. I don't think that I did something wrong. Maybe I really shouldn't have left her behind like that, but she kind of deserved it. She should have just accepted my apology and pulled herself together. So, am I the a-hole here?
Mamma mia. Really bad.
Yes.
This is a great way to start off Monday. What a possibly bow. So let's get into this. There is one thing that I kind of hope he answered for us, because it kind of sets the stage. All right, so they're at the park. They said they've enjoyed 2 weeks in Japan. That's fantastic. They're now finishing their last day at Disney. What a cool way to cap off a vacation. So the day is going along, and his wife asks him to tell a joke. He proceeds to tell a joke.
Knock, knock.
This is where my question comes in. What joke did he tell that offended her so greatly that this started these events?
You know, that's what a lot of commenters wanted to know. And he never says.
He never says. So he knows it's bad. Okay. See, you've lost everyone probably at this point. If you're unwilling to tell us what the joke is that offended your wife, you know you're in the wrong. Now that that question is out of the way, we get back to the story. They split for a little bit because it got her so heated that she needed, I think she says 15 minutes. 15 minutes to go calm down, go look at something for a little while. So this happens. She texts him back saying that, hey, I'm ready to meet up and let's see if we can fix this now that we have calm minds. They meet up. That did not happen the way that I think she wanted it to, because then it escalated. I think it starts with him telling her, you should have just accepted my apology because you're taking this joke not as a joke.
I guess for him, it was the fact that she told him that she was sad, and there's always a bit of truth to the joke.
Yeah. Then they split for a longer period of time. At that point, I think he says he leaves the park. And I'm guessing probably another hour after that, they start texting each other, and then she realizes that ROP has left the park completely. He not only leaves the park, he leaves her there without a key to the hotel, a dying phone, and in a foreign country. So
with apparently no way of her knowing how to get back to the hotel.
We know people that can't even get back to the place they live now where they live. You're abandoning someone in a foreign country? I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, you can have the argument. You're an adult. Be resourceful. But we're also talking about a single family member with no help there, relying on strangers.
Lost and having to trust who knows.
That's really bad. Shame on you for that. And they continue to have a conversation back and forth about how she cannot believe that he left. And then his rebuttal back to this whole situation is that she was in the wrong, is how he's looking at it. You should have taken my joke the way it was presented, that you're blowing up and you are being the inconsiderate one. So I have every right to leave you at a park. I would take this as a big red flag to our OP's wife. Unfortunately, they are married at this point. If she says she's lost her trust in you, that's pretty big. I hope you don't have children, because there's a lot of bad about this situation. The fact that you're not unwilling to tell us the joke shows me already that you have enough self-awareness to know when you're wrong and to hide it. And then you're willing to put other people's safety ahead of your ego or whatever it is that you were trying to protect when you pulled the stunt you did with your wife. You're 100% the a-hole. I hope she reassesses your guys' relationship going forward, because she's right. You're not trustworthy.
Well, the consensus was OP is definitely the a-hole. In fact, yes, you actually brought up the point that everybody says if you're not willing to say what the joke is, you're clearly in the wrong. The fact that you went one step further just cements how in the wrong you were. You left somebody that you supposedly are supposed to care about alone in a foreign country. Why would you think that she'd be okay? That she spent 3 hours trying to find her way back to the hotel, and nowhere along those 3 hours you weren't worried about her safety, goes ahead and shows how callous you are. Now, to expect that his wife would shut off her feelings just like that because he says he's sorry, I think maybe it was the way that he apologized that was the issue. I know some people can come across as, I'm sorry, you were the one to take the joke wrong, rather than, I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings. I think those two different ways of apologizing really sort of preset the way that all of this prolonged. Rather than him try and understand where she's coming from, he says, why is it that you just can't accept my apology? And hearing her on the phone crying, he sees she's just still being unreasonable, nice try, and hangs up.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I think these kind of show the context of what the relationship is like for me.
Sure.
For our OP not to share what the joke is, I think shows quite a bit.
He understands 100% what that joke was. That's the problem. But I do agree with what you said. It, for him, sounds like he was never really sorry. Sorry is just an empty way to push along so that way you don't have to spend your time dealing with their hurt. And unfortunately, she's dealing with that. Again, hopefully it opens her eyes and she can see where they're at in that relationship. Because, yeah, I wouldn't want to be around someone I couldn't trust. No.
Oh, yes.
Life's too short to deal with that.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this couple behind, and maybe now that they're safely at home, they can go ahead and reflect on themselves. And let's go to our next story. Am I the a-hole for pre-gaming my wife's dinners? My wife and I are both 32. Since we got married and moved in together 5 months ago, my wife has simply not made nearly enough food for me. This is not a kind of situation where I'm constantly agitated at her for incompetence or anything like that. I would be more than happy to microwave a burrito. I would be more than happy to whip up a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I can't. My wife has, every single night of our marriage, done the same thing. She'll make me a tiny dinner. I'm talking like a Chinese chicken salad with 30 grams of chicken and 10 leaves of lettuce arranged fashionably with dressing. When I finish eating, I'm still hungry because for a 230-pound man who works a physical labor job, it's not enough food. At first, I tried to openly communicate with her, but she always took it horribly. She would adopt a 1,000-yard stare and then began talking about how incompetent she is and how she can't even make her husband a proper dinner. I try to calm her down with, "Oh, honey, that's not the case. I just eat too much." Or, "Don't worry about it. I can make a bit more." I tried to be overwhelmingly positive. It never helped. She would always just get incredibly disappointed in herself, cry, and or take it out on me. Then she would make the same exact amount the following day. After the communication route failed, I tried to eat her dinners as is. It became hard to sleep at night due to hunger, and I lost 7 pounds in the first month. Eventually, I figured out my own system. On my way home from work, I started swinging by a fast food restaurant and getting myself a burger. I would basically pre-game her meals with some more calories. I figured it was a win-win, as what she doesn't know can't hurt her, and I could have my fill of food. I would eat on my way home, walk in the door, pick at the salad or quinoa or homemade mac and cheese she made, compliment her for her delicious cooking, and later dispose of the wrappers discreetly. 2 days ago, I was on my way home and in line at a drive-thru. My mother-in-law was coming out of the restaurant. She ran over and greeted me. I asked her in a humorous way not to tell her daughter where she saw me because she'd take it badly, and she agreed. And then she narked on me anyway. I got home to a furious wife who demanded details. When I provided the truth, she got extremely angry and looked legitimately hurt. I'm not good at handling confrontation and feel like I betrayed my wife in some way. Was I wrong here?
Wow, what an interesting story. So let's see if I have all the facts. Does OP tell us their age? Yeah, they're like 33-ish.
Both are 32.
Okay. And they're married.
Correct. 5 months married and moved in together.
Okay. Still pretty fresh. How long have they been together, though?
Doesn't say.
Okay. So let's frame this. OP says he works in a physical labor job, so he needs to keep his calories up. I can understand that. He says that he loses about 7 pounds after starting with the whole, like, I'm just going to deal with this situation, which is a lot. They move in together, and he adopts her eating style because she wants to cook every night. She's obviously not cooking enough, and he has tried the communication route. I am very familiar with this because a little while back, Voice started getting into healthier eating for us, and healthier eating styles meant eating things that were less filling. And for a while, I was, like this gentleman, very hungry after dinner. And we had to figure out what was the right portion for me to not have those hunger pains. And he's right. It's very difficult to sleep and function when you're taking in less calories all of a sudden. So you gotta have to balance that out. I'm shocked that the OP's wife didn't hear the communication for what it was, especially because if he is working in that type of field, and if he is struggling sleeping, why wouldn't you take that for anything other than what it was? And then she saw that as an attack on her cooking. I don't hear where he says her cooking's bad. All I hear is that he needs more. That's all. So for me, it almost sounds like she's doing something really weird. Like in a weird way, maybe she's trying to control his weight because she's unwilling to see him for what it is. He tells her how he's feeling, and then she proceeds to just continue making the same portions, not changing at all. I don't see how that's very healthy. Now, we fast forward. He's been dealing with this for a little bit. Now he's learned a way to get around it. Basically, are we going to call this like a white lie situation? Because it's not hurting his wife.
I would assume yes. It's
Although,
probably considered.
I just feel like this whole situation is very unhealthy.
I would also agree with that as well.
I can't even, like, a white lie would be harmless. This is very harmful. Him sneaking around having to feel that way to begin with is bad because of her and her insistence that this is the portion you're going to get. I don't understand that.
I can't wait for you to get to the mother-in-law.
Yeah, that's where this thing is all heading. So he's figured out a way around the whole thing. He pre-games. He eats a little something before he gets home. Fast food every day to make sure you get the right calories is not healthy. Inadvertently, she's like pushing him into unhealthiness by her trying to be healthy. But that only started because she's unwilling to communicate properly. What a mess. So he's at the fast food line, and for some reason, the gods have aligned it to where he's in that line and he sees his mother-in-law coming out of the same restaurant.
And like a laser beam, she locks in on him.
Yeah. They make eye contact. She comes over. They have a quick word, and he asks her, please don't tell the wife because this will go over badly. Mother-in-law acknowledges that truth. He says it, proceeds to head over to the house, and then in his words, narcs on him. That is foul. Not only are you dealing with your wife and her inability to see things rationally, you're dealing with her mother who clearly doesn't respect you at all. I'm actually shocked by that, especially when she knows that her daughter would have that problem with him. By knowing that truth, it almost feels like the mother-in-law doesn't really like you because there's no other excuse for that. So he gets home and they have a huge argument, I'm sure. And I'm guessing she probably still didn't see his side of it, why it is that he's having to do this, because it doesn't sound like she's good at taking any... It's not even criticism. That's where I come back. It's not criticism. He's saying, I just need to eat more.
Just do what you're doing now and double it.
Like, that's all. Like I've said, we've had that. When we switched over to eating healthier, I needed more food.
And I made sure to go ahead and either we added something that was more filler, or I started looking into creative, healthy desserts that you and I could have.
Voices desserts are the chef's kiss. They're fantastic. It's helped me adopt all the healthier stuff a lot quicker, and I appreciate that. But that's not where this couple's coming from. And I hope that they get to that level. They're in their early 30s, so maybe get into some type of counseling to learn how to talk and actually respect how each other feels, because that could lead into some dangerous waters down the road if you don't. I guess I'll go with, I don't feel that our OP is the a-hole, only if you're going by how the story follows. He was pushed into the corner that he had to feel like he needed to pregame.
Well, let me go ahead and provide you the consensus of Redditors. And they also say that he's not the a-hole. In fact, let me go ahead and provide you with some commenters' perspective on this. The first one says, it's really weird how she goes from passive-aggressive to suddenly being very angry. It sounds like she has crafted a very precise mental image of herself. And how she eats is relative to how it is that she feels. And when something challenges that, she, I guess you could say, doesn't go ahead and accept the feedback that she's being given.
But that's why I said that it kind of sounds like she's taking it as a personal attack on her cooking versus him just asking for more.
I could see that. I guess the other point that commenters put in is maybe she has ED.
Okay.
And that's influencing everything that she does. It will influence how she eats, but it would also influence how she would perceive others should eat as well. And especially what would be your significant other. Now, a lot of commenters actually put that as, this is just abuse. It's her way of trying to control how he eats and what he eats.
Well, sure. I was thinking that as well, as if you switch the story and that was a male doing that to a female.
In fact, that is exactly what one of the commenters said. They actually put down, if you visualize this going the other way around, it's 100% abuse.
Yeah.
So it should be abuse no matter which way it goes. You're talking about somebody trying to control another person, trying to force them into submitting to what you think should be the proper portions, either by guilt or by anger or by simply just overlooking it until they go ahead and they just accept what you say. It's extremely harmful and just not good. And if you're experiencing this 5 months in, where your mother-in-law goes ahead and knows the situation will be bad and still does it.
That mother-in-law wanted the smoke.
We actually had one commenter that went ahead and actually provided some context from their own life, where they said that a family member had battled with ED for their entire life. And she put her own spouse on that same diet and would get defensive, anxious, and agitated when anybody would try and commented on it. In fact, when other family members try to help the spouse actually try and get like a little more food, she would, in fact, tell them to take it, half of it back, that it was too much and unnecessary. It goes to show how much one type of illness can lead into other types of illness inside of a relationship. It actually made me feel very much aware that, yes, you and I think about eating healthy, but we take each other's input very seriously on the stuff that we consume. Not in a way that's controlling, but in a way that makes us both happy.
Yeah.
And while you and I have enjoyed our younger years eating pretty bad, our later years, we decided moderation is key.
We had to learn
moderation doesn't mean that we control each other.
Yeah, no, definitely not. We've allowed each other to grow and learn what's best for our bodies, but not choose what was best for our bodies for the other person. That's where this story gets pretty bad.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this meal fiasco alone and go on to our next story, shall we? Am I the a-hole for yelling at my wife after she blew up my phone with calls because of a fire? Throwaway because some of this made local news and I don't want it connecting back to me. I work in a place where we are not allowed to have personal electronics on us at all. No phones, no smartwatches, no pagers. I've been working here for about 6 months, so my wife knows this and understands that she should not try to contact me by my cell at work. Phones are dropped off in our lockers, and I typically have mine on Do Not Disturb. Before this incident, my phone has never gone off in the locker before. Recently, there was a pretty big fire at a secondary work site that I do work at occasionally, but that day I was working at the main building. Local news covered the fire before I found out about it because, again, no electronics. Plus, the work we do isolates us a bit, so news travels pretty slowly. There were a few casualties, a lot of seriously injured folk. My wife had been watching the news from home and started freaking out, I guess. She called me 20 freaking times, which, and I did not know this was possible, overrode my Do Not Disturb, and my phone was ringing for a while in my locker. In the middle of my shift, I got a call into my manager's office and was chewed out and written up for my phone making so much noise. They told me to go take care of whatever it was making my phone go off before I went back to work. I won't lie, when I saw those 20 missed calls from my wife, I was seriously pissed off. Like I said, she knows not to try to contact me directly, and a citation hurt my chances of getting a raise or promotion. I called her back, and she was sobbing and asking me if I was okay. I said of course I was okay and asked what the was wrong with her to call me so many times. She was still crying and started talking about the fire. After that, I started half yelling at her about all the reasons it was dumb of her to call me. When I got home, she was super upset with me. I apologized for yelling, but she refused to talk. She's been very chilly the past few days and sleeping in our daughter's room. I know it was not the best decision to yell at her, but I still think my anger was justified. 1, she knows I don't work in the secondary worksite very often. 2, she knows that I can't be contacted directly, and she could have just called the office. 3, 20 calls is absolutely insane. Am I the a-hole?
Oh my Lanta, 20 phone calls. If you think that your partner is in peril or that something may have happened at a place that they frequent for work, whether or not that is your main work site or not, your partner has the right to reach out and figure out if you're okay. I don't care if it was 50 phone calls. We'll get started into the story. OP doesn't say what line of work they go into. They kind of want to keep it very vague because this was in the news. Unfortunately, there were casualties. I can see why your wife wanted to call you to make sure you're okay because she loves you. That's what you do for people that you love. So a fire happens. Unfortunately, people's lives were lost at one of the work sites that he frequents. His wife calls. He says that she knows not to call him because in his line of work, he keeps his phone in his locker. So his wife sees this on the news. It's all going down. She calls him 20 times. He says that she could just call the office to make sure that he's okay. I'm pretty sure that your wife either didn't know that she could do that or in the moment of hysteria, because a lot of people would just break down and worry and try to get a hold of their loved one. That didn't even come across her mind. Do you blame her? She was just trying to make sure that you were alive. So he gets called in by his manager because his phone's making a lot of noise in the locker. He says it hurt him getting promotions or pay raises by having the citation. I'm failing to understand where his justification makes any sense. So he gets to his locker after he's being reprimanded by his boss, which I find that hard to believe. I'll be honest with you. That sounds very made up. But yeah, don't get me wrong. Everyone has to deal with different things at work due to their bosses or managers. Sometimes people can be a little unhinged. But I feel like in that situation, your boss would probably be telling you, hey, by the way, someone's trying to get a hold of you. We had a fire in the other building. I'm pretty sure it's a loved one trying to reach out to see if you're still alive. Get to your phones. You know, like, I feel like that would be the course that it would have taken, not berate you because people cared in your life about you. So that one seems a little made up to me. I could be wrong. Everyone deals with different things. But he gets to his locker. He sees that his wife has called him 20 times. And his first reaction to this is just to be irately angry. So he gives her a call back. And then he proceeds to yell at her because he doesn't understand why she would call him 20 times. Clearly, you've never been put in that situation where you've had to care about someone's well-being, because that's not your reaction if you had. You're definitely the a-hole.
So, the consensus is that he's definitely the a-hole. In fact, a lot of people said, what the hell is wrong with your boss? Or one of the a-holes that should be included in the story is your boss if they wrote you up for this.
Yeah.
Another person actually put down, you know, I bet you thinking about calling the main office didn't even cross your wife's mind. And even if she did, they imagine that there's probably a lot of other loved ones looking at this news that's also calling the office. So there's no guarantee that she even would have gotten through to actually get some sort of response. The fact that you would take this very callously is actually pretty shocking. 20 calls? Why would you go ahead and blame your wife for your phone taking it off Do Not Disturb if there's a program in your phone that says somebody's trying to reach out to you, your phone needs to ring because it is an emergency? Had her reasons been any other than watching the news and knowing that a site that she knows that you occasionally go to is on fire and there are casualties that they are not naming, how is she supposed to know that you didn't happen to go to that second site that day?
Yep. He's a wiener jacket that someone loves very much. So please understand that.
He's a wiener jacket that apparently is sleeping in a bed alone because
that's what
he
you
didn't
deserve.
realize how much he was loved.
I mean, would you rather have it the other way? You find out that one of the work sites you frequent did catch on fire and you didn't receive any calls. Would that have been the better solution for you? Because that's what it may be the next time.
That's very
true. You ran your wife off because she loves you.
So let me go ahead and read to you what one commenter said and then our OP's response to it.
No.
So the commenter said, "You're the a-hole. Your wife was worried that you could have been killed and you're upset that she was, checks notes, concerned about you. Do you not understand human emotions? She was panicking. She wasn't thinking about your possible promotion. She was thinking that you could be seriously hurt or even dead. All she wanted to do in that moment was hear your voice and hear it tell her that you're okay and that you love her and you'll be home safe. But instead, when she finally does, she hears it berate her and call her dumb. That being said, your employers are the biggest a-holes going. Your place of work is on fire, and they don't say, hey, go let your loved ones know that you're okay. Who wants to work for psychopaths? OP answered saying, it wasn't the place I was working at. It was a secondary job site an hour away. Plus the news coverage and her calling happened maybe an hour after the place went up in flames. People in my building who knew about it right away were concerned about things more important than sending a messenger down to all of us."
I still don't believe in his stories. Sorry. I'm almost certain that maybe management told them all to give their loved ones a ring, and this is just his way of covering his butt because he probably didn't care enough to let his wife know that he was good.
Oh, that's a really good thing to actually bring up. We don't know for sure, but I can actually see it being that way.
There's too much in there that he's trying to defend his management for, and it just kind of sounds weird.
That's very true. Very interesting.
If it was to cover your tracks because you just don't care.
I can see your viewpoint. Well, let's go ahead and leave this fiery situation behind, and let's see if we can cool it down a little with our next story.
Let's go.
Am I the a-hole for upgrading my house's thermostat so I could password protect it from my wife?
Oh, no.
My wife, 26 female, and I, 28 male, have been married for about a year now. We lived together in an apartment before getting married, and now we live in a house I inherited from my grandmother. This summer has been quite hot, and so like most people, we have been running our air conditioner nearly around the clock. My wife and I have very different ideas of how we should run it though. Using energy saver recommendations, I like to keep it at around 76 Fahrenheit and on low. My wife likes to turn it down to 60 degrees and blast it on the high setting, then turn it off when she gets cold, then turn it back on again when she gets hot. I've tried discussing this with her, as there's literally nothing I can do or say to convince her. She currently stays at home taking care of the house while I go to work, and the second I'm out the door, the thermostat is messed with. I've tried showing her our exorbitantly expensive power bill from May of all months, so it was only going to go up. But she doesn't care. She says that she's at home all day, and so she should have control over it. We've argued about this on and off since. About 3 weeks ago, I got a reservation for a new digital thermostat installation. The guys finally came in a few days ago and installed a new smart thermostat off our older air conditioning unit. The first thing I did was password protect it, so you would need a PIN to change any of the settings. My wife came home a few hours after I had set the PIN and noticed the new unit. When she tried to change the settings, she was met with a request for the PIN, and she asked me what it was. I told her that I wouldn't be telling her that. Then she asked what she should do if she gets hot. I responded that she can still turn the air conditioning on and off without using the PIN. The next morning, I left for work as normal, setting it to 76. When I got home in the afternoon, I found my wife on the living room floor pantomiming a fainting spell. She mustered the energy to say, "Help, water." I ignored her because you faint from heat in a climate-controlled room. When she realized I wouldn't give her attention, she exploded in anger and yelled that she could have died, prompting another argument. She ended it with calling me controlling and hasn't said more than a word to me since. Things have been rough for the past couple of days. I feel like what I did was completely justified, but was I an a-hole about this?
Interesting. Thermostat wars. Voice and I are familiar with those.
Very familiar. I preferred a little warmer.
Yes, she does. I love the cold. So let's see if I understand all the facts. OP's 28 and his wife is 26. They've been living in an apartment up until recently. They got a home that he inherited from his grandmother. And now they're learning how to have thermostat conversations with each other. Because that is important to have, especially during the summer months. Because that can make your bill go wildly up.
Oh,
so
yes.
you do have to be aware of it. He likes the temperature at 76. And his wife likes it at 60. I'm sure that can be very costly. And it kind of sounds like it's the way he's looking at it. And I can understand being cost conscious, but there's something that's missing greatly from the story. He says that they've been going back and forth with this and she's not listening at all to what he's tried to explain about how the money fluxes with how she's running the AC when he's at work. Because he does say it, I think she is staying at home. I'm not sure if she said she's working from home or how that's working out because he just says she's watching the house. So I'm not sure what that means. So he says that when he does leave for work, she puts it all the way down to 60 and just continues to turn it off when she's cold and then run it back up and then cut it back on. That's really bad. That's why you have to figure out a compromise with your partner to figure out what is a comfortable setting for you guys to have, especially when it's very hot outside. So this passes for a time. He schedules to have the AC unit upgraded. He's got a digital one, so now he can control it. He puts a password lock on it.
Tisk, tisk.
Against his wife. He gets it upgraded. He proceeds to go to work. His wife tries to put the thermostat down to 60, and then she finds out she's hit with a PIN number. He gets asked to give the PIN number, and he tells her that's not happening. So he comes home, and his wife is on the ground. He says pantomiming being hot.
Help.
Yeah.
Water.
I would have just tickled you on the ground. I definitely wouldn't have left you hanging like that. We wouldn't have even been in that situation. So he proceeds to ignore her. And then they both just start a big old argument, it sounds. That now they've been ignoring each other for a couple days. But it sounds like he's kept the password locked from her. So that didn't change anything. I think this situation is everyone definitely sucks. ROP sucks because he password locked and controlled and didn't have any conversation with his wife outside of that. Now, it sounds like he felt like he was pushed into that corner because, on the other hand, the wife in this situation has not listened or understands, I guess, how any of that works on that side, or is unwilling to, because I know she probably understands. She is unwilling to compromise, and then both need to be meeting in the middle on where that temperature needs to be set to. Because for her, it might be too hot. And I wouldn't want to be in an uncomfortable place, especially when it's hot outside. No, that doesn't make any sense. But on the other hand, she also needs to understand that money doesn't fall off trees. So compromise is important. I think that's where they're failing now. They're both the a-holes for not just communicating and compromising with each other and making that situation the way it has been.
Well, the consensus is also everyone sucks here. In fact, let me read to you one commenter that I think brings up another point, which I was a little confused on as well. Grown adults acting like kids. 75 degrees is too hot. 60 is too cold. How about a compromise? You know, like adults in a relationship would do. And what do you mean your wife stays home taking care of the house? What does your house do that requires full time to do it? Everyone sucks here.
That's where I was like, I'm not understanding that statement.
I don't understand it either. They don't appear to have children.
Was it his nice way of just saying she's a stay-at-home without saying it and hurting her?
Possibly. But at the same time, if you know that she's staying at home, who knows what she's doing at home, because apparently she's just taking care of the home, and somehow when there's a speck of dust, maybe something gets cleaned up right away.
It's very odd.
That's where I'm a bit confused. It sounds like if you're struggling for money, because that's his thing, is that their electric bill is too expensive,
Sure.
and you're the only one that's working, then maybe there needs to be talks in this marriage concerning what it is that she also needs to put into it as well.
Sure.
Because clearly it can't all be shouldered on him, but at the same time, he can't say that he's the breadwinner and try and control everything and not enjoy when she pushes back on it.
I can understand that. They're definitely, again, the communication and compromise do need to happen.
There was quite a few commenters that said, your thermostat issues is the least of your worries based on what we're seeing here.
Yeah. That could be bleeding into other aspects of their life. If you're willing to control that, I couldn't imagine having a password set for the thermostat in our home. That would be kind of weird.
I can understand the password protecting.
From children.
Exactly.
That's a different story, though. From my partner not knowing that pin, though, if we set that, come on. But the thing is, even with our
I
kid,
would rip that thermostat off the wall. There would be nothing to stop me from trying to make it just a little warmer in this house.
But even with our kid, he knows where the thermostat is, and we've told him if it gets hot and you're uncomfortable, you're free to do what you will with it. But we've taught him where is acceptable and how everything works.
You can't get below this because it will run it to the
during
point
certain
where
times
it's
of
too
the
much.
day. Like there's things you can teach each other, and it just sounds like she wasn't willing to hear that, and then for him, he was more than okay with starting to restrict and control. Not the good.
Well, let's go ahead and leave this thermostat dilemma alone, and let's go on to our last story of the day.
Although 60 sounds like heaven. Could you imagine?
No, not unless I'm a penguin.
I don't think I've ever been in a home that was set to 60.
That's way too low.
I'm comfortable with like 72, and then it gets cold for me at like 70. So I can only imagine what 60 feels like.
I can't.
Heaven.
I can't imagine. Let me just go ahead and put some ice skates on.
Added something to my bucket list. Yeah, you would turn into a penguin.
Well, for our last story, am I the a-hole for asking a female coworker if they could possibly leave me alone? Long story short, I am not exactly comfortable around women, and I do what I can to minimize my interactions with females as much as I can. Has nothing to do with capabilities or anything. I just get extremely uncomfortable. We have a new hire that has been trying to get to know people around the office better, and I happen to just excuse myself when she comes around. Thankfully, I work in the field a lot, so I am often alone. So it does not happen often, but when I do come to the office, she keeps trying to befriend or talk to me. I am civil and polite. I say hello and can handle idle chit-chat, even if it is visibly uncomfortable for me. She brought this up with my friend in the office, and he explained the situation, and since then, it seems she has made it her mission to have me open up. On Friday, I asked if she could leave me alone, please, that I have no intention to become her friend or open up. She lashed out and called me a misogynistic a-hole. I thought it over the weekend, and it has been racking my brain. Am I really the a-hole for not wanting to put myself in uncomfortable situations if I can avoid it? If I have to take her out in the field or help explain my drafts, I will push through, since it is work-related. I still get uncomfortable, but it is what it is. Those are situations I cannot avoid. But general interactions, I do not think it is wrong of me to limit those when possible. On the other hand, I also understand this is a me problem. I go to therapy, and that only does so much. This is something rooted in trauma, and I am not comfortable writing about it. She should not be punished for my own issues. So, am I the a-hole?
I don't think you're the a-hole. This one's pretty clear and cut to me, anyway. I don't think you went about it rudely, but we'll get into the story. ROP sounds like they're in their 20s. I'm not sure if they said their age. It just sounds like they're just trying to still figure out life. They said they're going through therapy, so good for them. He also understands that therapy is not a silver bullet. It's something that you have to work at and continue. So he's coming at it very logically. I can appreciate that. He has a new coworker that has been trying to connect with him. And he says he's okay with small chat and their interactions, saying hi, bye, that kind of thing. But anything past that, he gets very uncomfortable. He already lets it be known to this coworker that he's not a big fan of that. And then she continues to push. And then I guess in one interaction, he's done with the niceties of it. And he tells her that he doesn't want to be her friend. He doesn't want any other interaction outside of work function to be a part of their interaction. Is that rude in any way?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe that to be. But the real problem is when he tells her this, her reaction to him is gross.
Definitely.
I believe what she called him was a misogynistic a-hole. I'm failing to understand where the misogyny is in this situation and why she would even go there with that. Outside of she took this as a rejection of herself and not understood that that was his comfortability in the situations that she was putting him in. So, OP, I definitely don't believe you're the a-hole. I think you have a level head. I think you're still trying to work through some stuff, and even you have admitted here it's trauma that was put there because of abuse that you had gone through. So I can definitely understand with where you're coming from. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Do not feel bad for giving someone your truth and them not being able to handle it, because I don't think you did it rudely.
Well, before I go ahead and give the verdict and the consensus, let me go ahead and provide you with this update, and then we can go ahead and delve into this one. For the update, our poster says, "Thanks for all the replies. Was not expecting this many. I am going to talk my boss about this since we have to head up to New York, so we can talk about this on the drive to the airport. I do not want to bring this up to HR because I do not want her to get reprimanded or written up over a first offense. I will see what my boss has to say. She is a talented drafter. I do not want to lose her over this. I will provide an update after this week. I hope we can agree to let it go. One last edit. I had no idea female and women could not be used interchangeably. English was never my strong suit, as you can clearly see by my grammar and syntax usage. I am a math and science guy." So let me go ahead and delve into all of this for us. The moderators actually tagged this as the poster was the a-hole. However, based on the consensus and what I see, it was split pretty much you're the a-hole and not the a-hole, with a lot more people veering towards not the a-hole. And let me go ahead and provide what I see as the perspectives for the you're the a-hole part.
Okay.
I think a lot of people took offense into our poster interchangeably using female and women. Personally, I don't take offense to this. I see it no different than referring to you, Tim Stradamus, as a male or a man.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even see that in the story.
I think a lot of people got extremely sensitive because now we have a man who was coming across and saying that women made him uncomfortable.
Okay.
And
But wait, are we not allowed to say that towards each other? Would it have been met with the same fervor if a woman said, "I'm uncomfortable around men"?
And I think this is where, personally, a lot of the not the a-holes came out. Is they said that this person is clearly uncomfortable.
Yes.
This woman knows that he is uncomfortable and apparently still goes out of her way to try and make him open up. Now, let me go ahead and provide my own insight into this. I absolutely despise it when people treat other people like some sort of project that they need to fix them.
Sure.
I think that is a wrong way to look at people. People are not errors. They're not problems that other people need to fix. That is for that specific person to figure out. That is for them to go ahead and include loved ones into helping them go through. That is not for a coworker to go ahead and figure out that they have a problem, and rather than respect that they need to put some distance and it's not in their wheelhouse to go ahead and try and make this person open up and accept and do all this other stuff. I think it's very wrong and callous and selfish for you to go ahead and label someone as anything just because they tell you that they're uncomfortable. I've heard it both ways before. I've known quite a number of women who have said that men make them uncomfortable because of trauma that they've dealt with. They've given me their trust in telling me what happened. And I think that they are strong women to go ahead and keep living their lives to their fullest. Not everyone can continue to live to their fullest like they can. For a lot of people, those experiences are traumatic. And for a lot of them, getting out of a room is extremely difficult. I commend anybody that is able to go through their own demons in their lives, because it's not just an event for them. It's a reliving in their brain that they have to work through, and that they're afraid in every face that they come across that even remotely reminds them of that problem. So I commend this poster for not only realizing the issues that he's going through, who's trying to find the solution through therapy, who has not hidden that this is a problem with his coworkers so that his coworkers, every one of them, whether it's male or female, are aware. But on top of that is really trying to reflect if he's superseding his discomforts onto this other person. And then on top of that is actually caring enough to say he's not trying to get them in trouble at all. He'd like to find another solution rather than going straight to HR where potentially it would be a write-up. In whose direction? Who really knows in this sort of environment? However, when I saw that there were quite a bit of commenters that was really trying to, from what I could see, hate on our poster, simply for his word usage, I don't see anything wrong in him trying to explain his situation. That's a very delicate one.
Sure.
And when you're uncomfortable and when there's a problem and you let people know, you shouldn't be hated for it. If all it is just, please just stop trying to superimpose yourself on me. That's fair enough to say. He's not saying that she can't go into a room with him, that she can't complete her work with him if it required. He even apparently selected a job where he could work mainly alone because he's more comfortable that way.
He didn't do anything rude.
As you can tell, I'm pretty up in arms when it comes to this. I'm up in arms because I've been in uncomfortable situations. A lot of people don't realize, a lot of coworkers, a lot of friends aren't aware that I have a fear of crowds when it comes to too many people. I don't make it public, but if it was to ever go ahead and be made aware, I let people know before I get uncomfortable. I'm not there trying to advertise my problems, but I feel like when somebody has to in order to defend themselves, that's very unfair, that the world would demand that of them.
Yes. The fact that he got pushed into that corner to begin with was a problem. And that coworker needs to hopefully understand that that's what she did. Yeah, you definitely shouldn't be going around life thinking you can change people that you deem are not where they should be in life. So, but I agree with you. I think this young man has a good head on his shoulders, and I hope he continues to keep working through, as you said, his demons. And he gets to a place where he thinks is good for him, not what other people think he should be. Was that our last story?
Yes, that was our very last story.
Well, that was a doozy to end off on Monday with.
As you can tell, I had quite a bit on my mind to go ahead and tell us about regarding this.
Oh, I could see the white hot rage.
When it comes to what we have to deal with as people, I don't think it's really anybody's business the moment that you tell them that you're uncomfortable.
Yep. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would love to hear your viewpoints in the comments section below.
Have a good rest of your Monday, everybody, and hopefully you stay cool.
Oh yes, with these temperatures blowing up into craziness. Whew.
And my sunburn.
And your sunburn.
And remember, if you post it, maybe I won't get a sunburn. We're going to leave that.
Maybe because you'll be indoors.